Amelia Bedelia Means Business by Herman Parish. Pictures by Lynn Arvil. Chapter 4. You're hired. Since the next day was Saturday, Amelia Bedelia and her parents did what they always did on Saturdays. After Amelia Bedelia's swimming lesson, they had lunch at Pete's diner. Pete's was mobbed. They had to sit at the counter instead of their favorite booth. Amelia Bedelia loved sitting at the counter. She loved being close to the action, hearing the orders called out, watching them get filled, and seeing everyone working together to make the diner run smoothly. While they waited for their food, Amelia Bedelia asked her parents what kinds of jobs they had had when they were growing up. "I did all sorts of jobs," said her dad. "My job doesn't have to be odd," said Amelia Bedelia. "I don't have to be a lion tamer or something unusual. It can be a normal, regular job, so long as it pays me a lot." "When I was young," said her mother, "I worked as a waitress. I made buckets of money. My customers always gave me big tips." "That sounds kind of fun," said Amelia Bedelia. "Do they ever tip you so much that you fell over?" Before her mother could answer, the food arrived. Their usual waitress was so busy that the owner of the diner, Pete, served them. "Sorry, folks," he said as he put down their plates. "I'm very short-handed today." Amelia Bedelia looked closely at his hands. They looked like they were the regular length, not too short, not too long. Then she looked at her French fries in front of her. "Yum!" she said, as she gave the ketchup bottle an extra hard squeeze. The ketchup squirted right over the top of the fries onto Pete's clean white apron. "Hey!" shouted Pete. "Look out! Ketchup on the loose!" Amelia Bedelia thought she was in trouble, until Pete chuckled and asked, "Do I look like a French fry to you?" "No," said Amelia Bedelia, "but you do look like you need some help. Do you have a job for me?" Pete looked at Amelia Bedelia's parents. They both smiled and shrugged. "We come here every Saturday," said her father. "She knows your routine." Her mother added, "She's a good worker. Amelia Bedelia will do exactly what you tell her to do, and she's on vacation now, so she has spare time." Pete leaned forward to take a good look at Amelia Bedelia. "I wonder," he said, "can you cut the mustard?" "I've never tried that," said Amelia Bedelia, "but I sure can squirt the ketchup." Pete laughed. "You sure can. Okay, I'll give it a try. You're hired. You can be an official Pete's diner waitress in training." Amelia Bedelia reached out and gave Pete a firm handshake. Was this his shorthand, she wondered? Honestly, she felt like hugging him too. Instead, she hugged her parents. "Congratulations, sweetie," said her mom. "That's my girl," said her dad. "You landed your very first job." "You're hired." Those were magical words to Amelia Bedelia. Those words meant that her dream bike would soon be a reality. She gobbled down her fries, said goodbye to her parents, then slid off her stool and skipped into the kitchen. Doris, the regular waitress, found her a uniform. "This is the smallest size we got, honey," Doris said. Doris slipped the uniform over Amelia Bedelia's clothes. She tucked here and folded there. Finally, after half a dozen safety pins had been pinned and a bunch of twisty ties had been twisted and tied, Amelia Bedelia was ready for action. "You look nervous," said Doris. "Don't worry, I'll show you the ropes. Follow me." How cool, thought Amelia Bedelia. What kind of ropes would Doris show her? Cowboy lassos, mountain-climbing ropes, those thick lines that tie ships up to the pier? Maybe this would turn out to be an odd job after all. "Well, well," said Pete when Amelia Bedelia and Doris came out of the kitchen. "Look at you." "I can't," said Amelia Bedelia. "There's no mirror." "Well, believe me," he said, "you look like a real waitress. Now I've only one rule. Can you read that?" He pointed at a sign over the cash register. Amelia Bedelia read the sign out loud. "The customer is always right." Someone, probably Pete, had underlined the word "always" in red. "Just remember that the customer is always right," said Pete, "and you'll never go wrong around here." "Wrong?" said Amelia Bedelia. "What could possibly go wrong?" Chapter 5. When right was wrong. Amelia Bedelia went right to work. She did all the little things that Doris usually did, but didn't have time to do on such a busy day. Amelia Bedelia refilled the ketchup bottles, poured more salt and pepper into the shakers, folded napkins, and got more sugar and sweetener packets. Most of all, she had fun. Then the unthinkable happened. Suzanne and 3 girls from Amelia Bedelia's class walked through the door. Amelia Bedelia sank down behind the counter like the Titanic. What should she do? She was excited to tell them about her new job, but she also felt super embarrassed in her waitress uniform. Amelia and Bedelia inched up to take a peek. The girls had chosen a booth where they couldn't see her. Phew! Now she could stay out of sight. Stay quiet. Amelia and Bedelia! Yeah! Amelia and Bedelia nearly jumped out of skin. Luckily, it was only Doris. Calm down, honey, Doris said. Your mom was right. You are a good worker. Here's a treat. You deserve it. She handed Amelia and Bedelia a strawberry milkshake in a tall, frosty glass. Thanks, Doris, said Amelia and Bedelia. As she took her first sip, a big man walked in and sat down at the counter. He was wearing a bright orange baseball cap and a patch on his shirt that said Mike. Amelia and Bedelia offered him a menu. No thanks, he said. I know what I want. Good, said Doris. That's as easy as pie. And I'm in a big hurry, he added. My truck's still running. No problem, said Doris. At Pete's Diner, fast service is a piece of cake. I'm sure glad to hear that, he said. Please bring me a big piece of cherry pie. Doris turned to Amelia and Bedelia and said, This is a simple one. You can fill his order while I go talk to the cook. I'll be back in a few. Amelia and Bedelia smiled and nodded to the man. Then she went to the dessert case. She stood there gazing at all the yummy desserts. She realized that she had completely forgotten what the man had ordered. She had turned her brain inside out. Was it easy as pie, or was it a piece of cake? Was it easier to bake pie than a cake? You don't have to frost a pie, that's easier. But you don't have to roll out a dough for a cake. Then again, hello there, Mike called. Did you forget me? I'm in a hurry. Fast, said Amelia Bedelia to herself. That's a piece of cake. That's it. She brought him a piece of cake. Cake, he said. I ordered pie. Sorry, said Amelia Bedelia. I'm just learning. I can tell, said Mike. And I'm late. Just bring me a piece of cherry pie and step on it. Amelia Bedelia dashed off to get his pie, but now she was more confused than ever. Why did he want her to step on it? She remembered Pete's rule. The customer is always right. She dashed back to the mic and put his pie on the counter. At last, he said, sighing happily. As he lifted his fork to take his first bite, Amelia Bedelia climbed onto the counter. What are you doing? Asked Mike. Hey, get off the counter. Just then, Pete came out of the kitchen. What's all the commotion? He asked. Amelia Bedelia, what are you... Amelia Bedelia raised her foot and stepped on that tasty slice of pie with all her might. Gooey cherry pie filling spurted all over the counter, all over Mike, and all over Pete. Mike leapt on his feet. That does it, he yelled. I'm out of here. Wait, Pete called. He got an entire cherry pie from the dessert case, raced out of the park to the parking lot after him. By the time Pete came back in, Doris had returned, and Amelia Bedelia had wiped off the counter. Amelia Bedelia felt awful. She didn't help that she could hear the giggles from a certain booth. She'd recognize Suzanne's laugh anywhere. I'm sorry about the mess on your apron, Amelia Bedelia said to Pete. Pete looked at his apron, then he said, At least it matches the ketchup stain. Doris laughed. Amelia Bedelia smiled. Pete sighed and shook his head. I don't know what to say, Amelia Bedelia, except that I have to let you go. Go where? Asked Amelia Bedelia. Go home, said Pete. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, too, said Amelia Bedelia. I wanted to see those ropes and cut some mustard. I really wanted a big tip. I've got a tip for you, said Pete. You should get an office job. I don't think the world is ready for you to be a waitress. Doris helped Amelia Bedelia get out of her uniform. Then she slipped $5 into her pocket. Here, honey, she said. You are the best waitress in training I've ever had. Then Amelia Bedelia left and began the long walk home. That is the end of what I'll be reading today, but I hope to see you all for chapter 6 and to see you throughout the story. And if you didn't know this about Amelia Bedelia, she takes everything literally. So step on it means step on it. They're not just like phrases to her. So anyway, thank you all for joining, and I will see you for the next chapter or story.